organization, okay? And I want to start out clearly by giving you a very strong message. The answer is you must have an open and transparent relationship with your client and not make hidden profits. I would never suggest that you would receive any kickbacks, any unauthorized fees while you're managing a property for an owner. I'm not suggesting in any way that you hide, deceive, or trick, or do anything that would not be fully open and transparent with your owner. But the question is, does this disclosure have to be item by item, or can it be a broader, more general disclosure? In other words, do you have to list every possible referral fee and everything and have the owner sign it? Or is there some kind of way we can do a broader, more general, let's just kind of dig into this and see what reality is, at least in the licensing community. Now, before we go into the actual peeling back of this, I'm going to take a little side trip and talk about our brokerage communities, our brothers and sisters in the brokerage community. And the reason I'm going to go to the brokerage community to talk about this is, we look to them for training on disclosure rules. In other words, when you go to a pre-license class or a post-license class, or you go to continuing education for the last 30 years, those classes were not taught by experienced, professional, tried and true property managers. They were taught by people in residential sales, because that's where the money is, that's where all the focus is. That's why you see a real estate office on every corner of your city. The people who train us on disclosures are our brothers and sisters in the brokerage community. But there's a second reason. The second reason is they are governed by the same disclosure rules that govern property managers. In other words, in the real estate commissions in this country, they don't have one set of rules for brokers who do listing and selling, and then another set of rules for the management community. The rules apply to everybody the same way. And somehow the brokerage community is very quick to exhort us in the property management community, you can't make any referral fees without disclosing it specifically to the owner. They don't teach us how, they don't help us learn, they just exhort us not to. So the brokerage community here is part of the problem, okay? And the third reason is they, that being the brokerage community, residential sales brokers, have plenty of operational revenue streams that are never disclosed. Now, here's kind of what I mean. Let's go through some of them, because I don't want you to think badly of them. There's no reason to. Let's kind of talk about some. Number one, most brokers make a spread on agent advertising and signs. I know a lot of brokers in the Atlanta market, and I suspect it's the same way all across the country, that they'll negotiate an advertising rate with a local newspaper for $4 a line, and their agents come in and run ads, and he charges them $8 a line. It's pretty standard. Nothing surprises, should surprise you about that. Or they go to the sign company and negotiate a $5 cost per sign, and then all the agents go in under that broker and pay $10 a sign, and the broker makes a referral fee or a spread, call it what you want. Been going on for generations. Nothing wrong with it. It's just there, okay? Here's another example. Most franchises rebate half the agent paid franchise fees back to the broker. In other words, when a licensed agent under a broker pays a $300 franchise fee, the broker will get $150 of that back from the franchisor. Just pretty standard practice, okay? Nothing wrong with it. Most multiple listing services, at least in Georgia, pay the broker a portion of the agent paid multiple listing fees. Now, that's probably not true of a really small shop, but any decent sized shop in at least the Georgia market, when the agent pays a $400 multiple listing service fee on a sale of a piece of property, $200 of that will come back to the broker. It's just the way the system works. It's an operational revenue stream, okay? Now, there's some others. The brokers often own insurance businesses, title companies, and mortgage businesses, kind of like property managers owning a maintenance company, okay? Nowhere in the purchase and sale agreement is that disclosed. Nowhere in the listing agreement generally is that disclosed. It's just an operation. It's a business operation that the broker may own or their wife may own. And so whether it's insurance, title work, mortgage companies, when they refer their agents to those companies to do business with, they make profits. They generate all kinds of revenues based on that business, okay? Perfectly normal. They make spreads on leasing office space. Brokers will go in and they'll lease a big office for $3,000 a month, carve it up into little booths and little offices for agents to lease, and the accumulation of all the rented space might be $5,000 a month, even though the broker's only paying $3,000 a month. Perfectly normal, nothing against it, no reason to disclose it, kind of an operational thing. Everybody does it, it's just kind of the norm in the business, okay? It's not unethical. It's not wrong to make money on operational parts of the business, and the brokerage community has been doing it forever, okay? No one expects them to list these revenue streams or profit centers in a listing agreement or in a purchase and sale agreement. It isn't, it's an operational revenue stream. And instead of the brokerage community kind of teaching us how to do that, ethically, legally, within the license law and within the codes of ethics of all of these associations that we're a member of, what we get most of the time from the brokerage community is kind of thou shalt not. And instead of teaching us how, they just kind of tell us not to. And we need to have a kind of an honest conversation about this and kind of see what the brokerage community does and see if that applies at all to some of the things we should be doing and how we survive in a real nickel-dime business that has super thin margins and is hard to do. So there is a way to do that, and I want to give you hope. So here's the question, okay? Because they do it, we should do it. Nah, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying because the brokerage community does it, even though it's wrong, okay, that we can do it. Not at all. That would be juvenile, and I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just saying we ought to have an honest conversation about what we should be doing as property managers to make some real serious money in this business. We have to ask some honest questions about the property management agreements, about how do we disclose, and about how far do we have to go to satisfy the disclosure requirements. In other words, the question is, what are the alternatives? What are some things that we can do to boost our revenue streams without having to run back to the owner and disclose that we got a $50 bonus back from Home Depot because we bought the owner's hot water heater at Home Depot? Or we made a $100 referral fee on a paint job because we had to go over there and give an estimate and oversee the quality. We just need to think through this together, and you don't need to be afraid of it. And sometimes just not knowing makes us afraid. So I'm trying to peel some of this back and get you better educated so you can survive in what is a really tough business. So here's kind of the way our story unfolds. Back in the mid-90s, I met a great lady by the name of Monica Gilroy. Monica is the founder and principal attorney, managing attorney of Gilroy Bailey Trumbull. Now, about 20 years ago, I met Monica in a courtroom. She was handling a property management dispute, and I kind of thought, wow, now there's a sledgehammer lawyer. She's really good. Why in the world is she handling nickel-dime property management stuff? And I got to know her a little bit. And so in the mid-90s, kind of together with Monica, we started zeroing in on what do we have to say in a management agreement that would allow us to really make some good money in this business. Now, Monica teaches the Georgia Association Realtor forms to the real estate industry. She is a real estate litigator. She handles license law disputes with real estate agents in the area. She does landlord-tenant law. She does landlord-tenant litigation. She often trains in our NARPM chapter here in the Atlanta area. So everybody in our chapter knows her. She's a great lady, and she brings a ton of landlord-tenant experience to the table. So I kind of started working with her and said about 20 years ago, what are my options? What are my options? I know what the brokerage community does, and I know we've got these license laws and codes of ethics. How do we maneuver around all that stuff to allow me to make some money, okay? So we said, okay, here's kind of our criteria. I want to satisfy the real estate commission requirements for disclosure. Okay, that's important. I don't want to drive owners away. I mean, I don't want owners to read my management agreement and run, right? And I want to give us the freedom to make as much money as we can through any means we can without reporting to the owner every nickel we make. So in other words, that was kind of our mission, okay? We said, I want a stipulation in the management agreement that tells the owner that as their agent, we will be generating additional revenue in the managing of their property, in addition to the stated fees that they pay me for my scope of service. Now listen, including profits generated from companies we own. So that was kind of, our mission. We kind of took all the disclosures and all the codes of ethics and the license issue and tried to come up with something. And we came up about 20 years ago with what I call, and most people call, a broad standing disclosure. A broad standing disclosure. It is a one-time disclosure, okay, that says that when said just right, satisfies the commission, satisfies our code of ethics, doesn't drive owners away, satisfies the requirement of transparency that we owe our owners, and we offer it, it's on our website at trainingpropertymanagers.com under products called CYA documents for owners. Now, the language is one part, but quite honestly, how you explain it to the owners is the other part. So we came up with the language. We didn't get it right the first time. We had to tweak it. It basically is a stipulation that we put in all of our management agreements, okay? And there's a right and a wrong way to say this. And it took us a little while to kind of learn it. It's not entirely about the language. It is about your response when owners ask about it. In other words, the language is the language. It does the job. It complies with all of our mission. But when owners say, Robert, what is this language here about you receiving referral fees and markups and spreads from companies outside this and companies you own? And the explanation about that is awfully important. Because if you stumble, if you apologize, if you're kind of tail between the legs, you're kind of embarrassed about it because you're making all this money, on managing his rental house in addition to the fees they pay you, okay, it'll bomb. You won't get away with it. But if you have a sense of courage, if you kind of say, this is a nickel dime thin margin business, and my overhead is $20,000 a month, and although your $80 a month management fee is really important to me, and I value you as a customer, it isn't beginning enough money. It doesn't even touch what we need to keep our operation open. So there's a whole string of conversations that you can have that are thoughtful, intelligent, and very, very persuasive. And so it's not just about the language, it's about your answering the question when it comes up about this language, okay? So I want to show you the results now, okay? Let's get right here. I want to show you the results. Now look, we've signed up 2,000 owners with this in our management agreement. Now that's from about 1995 to when we sold the company in 2015. So 20 years, okay? We signed up well over 2,000 owners. We leased to about 10,000, maybe not, 6,000 tenants during that period of time, okay? And it generated millions of dollars directly as a result of this language. I mean tons of money, not a few $100,000, but I mean millions and millions of dollars we generated outside of the management agreement, in addition to the fees that the owner paid us. And we did it with the owner's knowledge, full disclosure, and permission, okay? We never had a complaint with the commission, so certainly that qualified us. That was one of our mission points, remember? And because we didn't want to get in trouble with the commission. We never had any litigation over it. We have dozens of our students who've embraced this. We've kind of offered our management agreement, rental agreement, a bunch of training for about 15 years. We've got dozens of managers out there that use this language in their management agreement. They don't report any trouble whatsoever with it. And then the company who bought us out, National Realty Trust. Now, this is a company owned by Realty, Fortune 500 company, $8 billion a year company that owns most of the Coldwell Banker franchises in America. When they bought Crown out in October of 2015, their army of lawyers, because they had a ton of them, looked at this language and said, you know what? We think that's perfect. It complies with all the code of ethics. It complies with the commission rules. It fits the transparency and open and honest thing that we owe to our clients when we represent them in managing a rental house. and they left the language exactly the way we've used it for the last 20 years. Now, before we go further, I have a warning for you. I have a warning. If your license is under another broker, you must comply with their policy to the letter regarding this issue. If you're under another broker, you have no right to go out and make a dime outside of the policy that your broker has made for you. When you are under a broker, you don't trick them, you don't scam them, you don't do anything on the side. You go to them, you persuade them, bring us with you, we'll persuade them that property management needs 100 different ways to make a nickel in order to survive this business and really prosper. So if you are under another broker, don't think that you can do this just because they're doing it, or the brokerage community in general is doing it, or because it's legal and we've been doing it, or our students have been doing it. No, if you're under another broker, you do it exactly the way they tell you to do it. Here's your second warning, okay? You will lose an owner from time to time with this language, and if you, you will lose an owner from time to time with this language, okay? Got ahead of myself. Every once in a while, I'll have a student come up in a class and say, Robert, I picked up one of your owners last week. He didn't like the fact that you were charging him for certain things, and he felt you were nickel-diming him to death, and we picked him up, grin, kind of needling me a little bit. And, I'm bothered by that. Certainly, I don't like losing any owners. But here's the thing. When I've got 900 to 1,000 houses, if I lose an owner or two a year, because they don't think that I should be charging them for this and charging them for that, or making a coupon back from Home Depot, or making a $10 referral fee on a rekey, or getting a referral fee from somebody. If they don't think that's right, they need to go. Because it's kind of like the 1%. If the 1% don't like it, they need to leave, because I'll make a ton of money on the remaining 99%. Here's another thing you want to keep in mind. If you're making a ton of money, can't you give really good customer service? Yeah. People will stay with you if you give them great customer service. We had way too many staff. We had like 20 staff on 1,000 houses, which is way too many. But we had a lot of nickels to count. And because we had so much money generated from that business, we were able to give superb customer service. We were able to hire the best staff. We were able to give gas coupons and Starbucks coupons and thank you notes to our owners. We were able to provide tools and services for them that just blew them away. And we had owners stay with us 10, 20, 30 years. There are owners with Crown today, 37 years after they joined us, that are still with them. I'm not talking about relatives or staff. I'm talking John Q. Public. We have videos on our website from owners who have been with us 30 and 35 years. We've even got owners whose dad has been with us for 35 years, and now the son owns rental properties, and he's with us. We're managing their property. So it's not a matter of nickel-diming owners to death and driving them away from you. That would be stupid. You don't want to do that. It's about generating enough money that you can really give good service, hire great people, give great customer service, start letting you back out of the business and getting ready to sell your business someday for a ton of money. Here's the point I want to make. If you build your management agreement that keeps every owner, you'll go broke. In other words, if you are so sensitive that one owner out of 50 leaves you and claims that you charge too much, you got a problem. You should be moving your fees and building a structure and generating enough money that you lose an owner once in a while over it, because that means you're doing the job right. And you owe your family at least as much as you do your owners, okay? And people are running their businesses and working 12, 14-hour days and living, just breathing fumes, financially speaking, because they're afraid that they might lose an owner if they charge for something, okay? Now, remember we said the next video is kind of the response you give to the owner when they ask about the disclosure when they read the management agreement. In other words, remember I said it was about two things. It's about the language in the stipulation, and it's about how you respond when people ask. And we've done that in another myth. It's myth number 16. So be sure to come back into our site and listen myth number 16. Make sure your staff hears it, because they need to know that making money is okay and making tons of operational money is okay. Disclosure and transparency is critical, but it doesn't mean you can't make a ton of money in this business if you do it the right way. Now, you can find our broad standing disclosure on trainingpropertymanagers.com under products. There's a bucket of product called CYA documents and for owners. And you can find that and start using it today. And don't forget to get on myth number 16 and listen to that carefully. So, the myth is all referral fees, commissions, rebates, and spread must be in your management agreement and agreed to by the owner specifically before you go into business with them. No, that's wrong. You do need to disclose. You do need transparency. It's important you're not taking anything that is hidden or deceptive in terms of kickbacks and things like that. Bad, bad, bad. Don't do it. But you can make a ton of money in this business if you do it the right way. We did it the right way. We made a ton of money. And we sold out for several $1 million to a Fortune 500 company. And we wanted to help you do that for you and your company and your family and your staff and your grandkids. We're having a ball these days. We made a ton of money in the business. We sold it for a ton of money. We want to help you do the same. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We really do appreciate it.